I'm here with Fifth Ward candidate Rob Mathieu. It's Mathieu, right? That's
Mathieu.
Okay.
That's the French spelling
Okay.
of Matthew. If you want to say it correctly, I guess it's Mathieu.
And we're here to discuss his campaign and candidacy for the Fifth Ward. So thanks, Rob, for meeting with me. And it's you prefer Rob, Robert?
Rob,
Okay.
simple, yeah.
All right, so we'll just get right into it right away. So for those who aren't familiar with who you are, can you just provide some information on, who you are and why you want to represent the residents of the Fifth Ward?
Sure. I'm new to town.
And by new, you mean like what?
I purchased the home, my first home actually, here in 2016.
Okay.
Closing day was actually April 15th, tax day.
Wow.
That's why I remember it so vividly. And I remember the lawyer on the other end said, "Welcome to New Jersey," because I am born and raised in Staten Island, New York.
Oh, okay.
He said, "Welcome to New Jersey, and thank you for being a tax-paying citizen." Like, absolutely, anytime. I'm 36 years old, and I'm like a lot of 30-year-olds that rented, and I actually had a roommate previously, and then I said to myself, at this time I should go on my own, get my own place, and I was looking at rentals and everything, but rentals are pretty high nowadays. There's obviously a large demand, and I was like, I'd rather own something if I can. So
Right.
I, to some extent, took a shot on Roselle Park because
So why'd you choose like Roselle Park?
it was affordable.
Okay.
It was almost the same as rent, a little more, obviously, because I have a mortgage.
Right.
But the house that I specifically bought is around the block from the train station, right around the block from 7-Eleven. And I was working in the city, and I, tried out this train. I'm like, this is great.
Okay.
Coming from Staten Island, the public transportation is not even
non-existent.
not even
Staten
nearly
Island.
not nearly as good as this, even though it's a borough.
But the bus, right? That's what they have.
They have a bus, and then they have the train to the ferry. But then when you get off the ferry, which is a 30-minute ride, you have to take a subway or maybe two more, depending where you're going to go. So
There's no subway line to Staten Island, right?
There's zero.
I think it's the only borough.
It's the only borough
that has
without
no subway.
nothing whatsoever. So it's Staten Island Railway
Okay.
to the ferry, then you walk to the R or the 4 or 5,
And then you
or
take
the 1,
the subway.
and then you take the subway, and depending
Wow.
where else you're going, you may take another subway. So it's not great, but I did it. I did both. I did the bus mainly
Right.
because you could just sit there and kind of fall asleep and go to Never Land, and then wake up and be like, oh great, I got to go to work now.
And so was the travel time from here to your work in New York?
Way better.
Really?
And I'm not just saying that because I'm running for
Right,
councilman,
no.
and I'm the biggest. I'm trying to be the biggest cheerleader for Roselle Park. It literally is way better. It's a great transit system. I get it. We don't have a 1-seat ride, but it's still pretty good.
Wow.
Yes, much better.
Yeah, because you're literally in another state, and you're getting to work sooner than you would from the borough.
Because we have a direct tunnel.
Wow.
That's what it is at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
We don't have it. Staten Island doesn't have a direct tunnel.
All right.
And then also, I'm at the point in my life where, I have to start thinking into the nearer future about having a family and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And after coming here, looking at the town, it's safe, it's nice, it's got a nice small town feel, just like the middle class neighborhood I grew up in, Staten Island.
Okay.
And then the schools, I've heard nothing but good things. And I said, I think I can do, this would be a good place to, possibly some roots, start a family. That's the introduction of who I am. We can get a little deeper into what I do, I guess.
Excellent. That's
In
good.
the next question.
So it's interesting that, like you went to another state, and it's amazing. That's pretty good. So we talked about like your introduction, but can you give us some specifics or information on your work experience and how you would apply that if you were elected council?
Absolutely.
Work, volunteer, life experience. Right?
Sure.
Combination.
Not to go on and on, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. But the way I like to introduce, I worked in all 3 sectors.
Okay.
I worked for the public sector.
Right.
I worked for the city of New York. I currently work for the private sector, and I even work for the nonprofit sector for a small stint.
Okay.
When I first got out of college, which was Seton Hall University, I got a bachelor's degree in political science. I had some amazing classes.
Really?
I had some amazing classes.
Was that your major?
That was my major.
Oh, cool.
So I had some great classes in New Jersey.
Right.
talking about New Jersey. I remember I had an urban politics class talking about introduction to city planning, and then I've had Western political thought that went over everything from Plato to John Locke. You know, it was great, and you know we debated things. And back then it was the Howard Dean years with all the Democratic candidates back then, and I don't know, the man just went woo, and it was over. And now we have a man who does, I don't know, 400 more things, and it's just like, oh well, that's just him. But which is interesting. But I digress. When I first got out of college, one of my first decent positions I had was investor relations, which is a specialization of public relations, where you actually market to the business community, startup companies, because a lot of startup companies don't create an in-house PR department, IR department. They outsource it to an agency. So I worked in basically a marketing agency. Surprisingly enough, cold calling people from the investment community. You have databases out there that you would purchase where you would get contact information of specific like buy or sell side analysts. Anybody knows that? That's just a guy who literally writes a very in-depth financial report to cover that company so that the investment community can read it and say, hey, yeah, maybe we'll take a position or invest, buy X amount of stocks in this company. That really wasn't my forte. I didn't even study it, but it was just such a great opportunity. So I said, let's do it, you know. Unfortunately, I actually got laid off in the economic downturn of '09. It was unfortunate, and you know, I'm a regular guy, so I was a waiter. I moved furniture. I did a lot of, you know, just
you do what you had to do.
You know, blue collar. You know, good hard work.
Do you think that because so there's a huge thing about what Roosevelt Park is, and some people say we're a middle class town. We're a blue collar middle class town. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's plenty of that where I grew up too.
Right. And do you think you having to have gone through that, growing up in that environment, worked in that, been to the point where you needed to scrimp and save and get whatever job you could? Do you think that'll help you when you make decisions on council that affect the residents?
I mean, if anyone who gets to know me, that was a large reason of that made me who I am. I'm a regular guy, but at the same time, you know, I am educated and I do have professional experience. So, you know, I don't look at one thing better than the other by no means, and you know, I met some great people in my life, you know, working in those places. I'd rather not do that work because it's tough work. It's very, very hard. And, you know, for people who do it, I know what they go through, and it's hard. I mean, I give a lot of credit to people who do that. And there's some people, they don't have the choice. That's all they can do. Right. You know,
and they still want to come home, just like us, right? Yeah. Okay, just relax.
I mean, my
home.
My grandfather, you know, raised a family in Brooklyn as a waiter in Manhattan. Right. So I try to tip very well as a result because I did work in the food industry and I know what hard work it is. Trust me. People think it's like so easy. It's not. If you ever go into a kitchen that's busy, it's out of control. It's like a war zone. People just screaming things, throwing things around. It's crazy, but it was awesome, you know.
Okay.
But luckily, you know, when I was, you know, I was laid off from the professional world. Right. It was hard for me to get in, and I know what it's like to not get calls from recruiters and not be able to just even get interviews, and my resume got larger and larger and larger, and it was some tough times. I won't lie, because I was really frustrated because I was like, you know, I went to college and I was younger in these days too. Right. So I was younger and I thought differently. I was a little angry maybe because you're a young kid and you're like, what's going on? What the hell?
And you did all the right things.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, I did everything they said, and I can't get in. I can't do nothing. And then luckily, I applied to this. You know, it was an ad for the Staten Island Economic Development Corp. I used my savvy and my creativity, and I applied for it was a part-time, it was basically like an internship position. I was 29 years old. I was a 29-year-old intern. Did I tell him I was 29? No, I didn't tell him I was 29. Right. I have a young face, but I just interviewed. I got both of his email addresses. Apparently he ran 2 nonprofit organizations, and he made a joke and said, "What are you, the CIA? How'd you find my email addresses?" I was like, I really want this. Right. I've actually always dreamed of doing something like this, being a political science major, and I worked for an economic development corp for a little while, and I met some great people there, and I learned a lot of cool things there, helping them push capital projects in the borough of Staten Island that they thought would help, like the West Shore Light Rail expansion, which is a very idealistic thing that they've always been pushing, but can't get the political will or the funding behind. But also just helping the small business community. There's a lot of programs out there to help them, and he put me more on that. So there,
because Staten Island is out of the boroughs. It's the borough that time forgot, right? Everyone thinks of Manhattan or even Brooklyn or Queens.
It's
or
very much
Bronx,
like
right?
here. It's a suburb. It's a suburb of New York City.
Yeah, you're right. That's where people would go home.
Yeah.
They would work in the city and then they travel.
It's a bedroom community.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? Right? Yeah. I mean, just like where we live here in Rosa Park, it reminds me a lot of it. It's smaller lots, regular sized homes, pretty close vicinity to New York City. A lot of people left the city to kind of get away from that. A lot of Italians. We got some here,
Right.
And pizzerias. A lot of pizzerias here too, But to continue on from there, I got a full-time position in the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Managing small business programs to help small business owners in the Staten Island
So you're familiar
district
with the public sector and the private sector.
To some extent,
working...
yes. I technically was a union man.
Okay.
I worked in an office union. But at the same token, what was interesting about my position was we still had metrics that we had to hit. This was a program that was actually created by Mayor Bloomberg. As funny as it is, our office was the only office that was actually part of small business services, where the other programs were actually outsourced to either nonprofits or for-profit companies that specialize in dispensing those services. And the way that it was ran like almost like kind of like the private sector, where they had to meet certain metrics, or their contract may or may not have been renewed.
Right.
I think it was because the Staten Island contract was so small, it wasn't worth anyone's time. So I was lucky to be in the union, but it didn't matter. My boss and we were so into it, and I said, whatever numbers we got to hit, we're going to hit, and we did phenomenal. We seriously did. I'm not just saying it. We always hit well over 100% of our number. And when Hurricane Sandy hit, that was actually the first time I got a good exposure to actually grant and alternative lending, because I actually had to look at a lot of small business owners' tax returns and see if they were profitable, because that's how they would qualify for certain loans, etc. So that was part of what I did. I helped connect them with alternative lenders and even regular banks. As for anyone who does or doesn't know, a regular bank will pretty much never give a startup loan to most people. They have to be established for X amount of times, and they have to actually show profitability at the end of the day. But alternative lenders, on the other hand, are different. They take a shot at you. Interest rate's a little higher because it's a risky venture. Right. Because starting a small business is extremely risky, and anyone who's willing to do it, I always tip my hat off of them. I know a little bit about it. My family on my one side all started, when they came to this country, that's what they did to raise their families. They started a lot of prototypical Korean American, not Korean, well, they're Korean American, again, citizens, Korean American, businesses like dry cleaners and small supermarkets, nail salons. So that was what they did. My mom actually took a shot at it too, but my father, on the other hand, was born and raised in Brooklyn, and was a corporate man, and he was a computer programmer. Just was good at math. I mean, it's not math, but it's logic. He's good at logic. And he enabled me to get a good education and live a very good life, and that really was more the first question. That's all right. The second question is, so continuing on, I then considered, after working for small business services, I said to myself, let me try the private sector again. And I was making a lot of connections in the last job I worked in, and somebody that I knew pretty well was saying to me, I see the kind of work you're doing there. You're so passionate about it. I think you could do really well in this type of work. To some extent, you are managing programs, but they're programs within, in a private company as opposed to managing a public program. And I got my first position, Time Warner Cable in New York City at the real estate division, where I would basically manage real estate properties, negotiate agreements with property owners to get telecom infrastructure into their properties.
Okay.
So that was my main focus there. That's what I did day in and day out, trying to get the infrastructure into the property and then negotiating the agreement and the relationship. A lot of it is relationship management. You'd be surprised. It's not just what's on black and white on the paper, because you could have certain terms in an agreement, but if the relationship's not right, things don't happen expeditiously. If, say, the person's like, I don't want to bother with them right now. I'm not going to pick up the phone for them right now, or whatever it be. So I did that for a couple of years, and then to expand upon this new career of mine, I now work for a pretty prominent engineering company doing it on the wireless side. So that was the fiber optic side. Now I am basically the guy who maintains, because I'm not in the new site build, already existing infrastructure.
Okay.
But because it is covered by an agreement, I have to basically read. At one point, I've read probably close to 80 lease agreements, and I have to make sure I know all the terms in there, so that when I reach out to the property owner, I know what rights I have to move forward in whatever infrastructure upgrades I need to do. And that's one component of this position. But what really made me love this job is I'm more so like a project manager, where I have my hands in a lot of things. So I do, I manage the permitting process, so I have to actually file for permits or use a vendor that files for permits for me within certain timelines, meaning as fast as humanly possible. And I have to manage the vendor, the engineering vendors who construct. We just call them construction drawings. I mean, that's really what CDs. I mean, that's what it is. And they have to get those as soon as possible as well. And I have to manage different timelines and make sure these projects come to fruition in a timely manner.
So it looks like you've been familiar with the bureaucratic end in the public sector, and then now having read all these things, because you have to get it right? Because it's unforgiving if you get something wrong in something that you're talking about. Some point they're going to jump on you, right?
Oh yeah.
So you
every
have
Monday,
right?
we have a weekly call.
So you have to know about that.
Yeah.
So do you think that's how do you feel that prepares you for?
I mean, just so people know, I mean, everyone wants to demonize the public sector as red tape palooza, but private sector has their own red tape. We have our own processes that we have to follow through. They don't just like dispense the check. If I have a PO, for instance, like we actually do POs too. Okay. But the fact that I hear that in council meetings, like, oh, POs, they do POs too. See how closely aligned they are? It's just the motivations are different. Their bottom line is profitivity. Our, government's bottom line is dispensing the services efficiently and as effectively as possible within the revenue that they get. I mean, it's as simple as that. But they don't have a bottom line, which is great.
But there's still deadlines. There's still contracts you got to read.
Absolutely.
There's still relationships you got to make, right?
And there's a process that you have to follow. So if I, have a project that needed something extra, like, I don't know, one of the properties, they wanted to take down something called, they want to take down this like fence around the rooftop, because it's interfering, the metal inside it is interfering with the new antenna that we just put in, because it's more sensitive. Now I have to go to the client, and which is the carrier, which is like AT&T, T-Mobile, whomever, and say, hey, in order to take away from this interference, you have to sign off on this PO that enable me to do this, because I'm not going to just pull it out of my pocket and do it. Like I said, there's processes, and doesn't happen like that. It's got to go through the motions and up the ladder, etc. So you understand, I guess, that end where it comes to like so suppose you get into office and someone's like, Rob, you said you were going to do this, and it's like, it's January 2nd. I think the key to a good leader is that he or she has to thoroughly explain that to people, because I mean, wouldn't expect anyone to know exactly the processes. I don't know exactly the process. I don't sit there. I don't sit there on a day-to-day basis and claim to know exactly how all that works. I really won't know until I'm in there. I mean, that's true. Of course, since I'm really into this, I'm going to be sitting down with every key person in Borough Hall and explain, and be like, listen, I need to know exactly how this all works. Feed me. Let's get this done. This, for the betterment of the community, and let's see what we could come up with. We come up with some new ideas. That's what I'm hoping to bring with the experience I have, and just the passion that I have to do something like this. I mean, I feel like you have to have that if you do something like this.
All right. So you talked about that you're not in the day in and day out, but how have you informed yourself of how Rosa Park works with budgets, legislation, the business of the people, and if elected, how do you plan to keep residents informed?
So not to sound funny, but I have to say RP News is one of my first tastes. It really was. You've written countless amount of articles about all the different issues that have rose, and you try to provide a simple synopsis as to how this works and how that works. So that was definitely, as I said, those were my cliff notes, my spark notes. I don't know what the young kids use now. I hear they don't use that. I hear they got like YouTube videos that like put a cartoon and explain the story for them. I'm like, that's so not fair. We still had to read, even though it was less.
Right.
but NJ.com, Spotlight, New Jersey. I mean, I even go as far as reading a little bit more academic, notes regarding urban planning and how it affects the community. And I remember I read that 2010 Comptroller report by Christie's Comptroller, who's the controller under Christie, about pilots and the pros and cons to it, etc. I mean, I read a lot. Rosa Park TV on YouTube. I did cut the cable. I'm one of those people to save money. So the only way I can watch council meetings is Rosa Park TV.
Okay. And that's on YouTube. That's a channel.
That's on YouTube, yeah.
And you can watch it anytime you want.
And
anywhere.
There are nights, and I swear to you, I'm not making this up, where I have just sat laying down, playing with my phone, and just had it in the background, watching and listening to all the meetings, listening to you and Jacob and others, and our mayor, rank and serial number. I don't know how many times I've heard that. I mean, I've listened to everything. I've tried to watch other meetings in other towns to see how they conduct their business.
Okay.
And I've reached out to various professionals around here. I actually have a couple of family members involved in politics. I've asked them, and I've been meeting a lot of new people ever since I got involved in politics. People who come to me and who have certain positions, like a budget auditor company fella I met one day, and he was explaining to me how the budget process works and why there are surpluses in the budget, etc. And he actually basically told me New Jersey is a very, very conservative with the way they run their budgets, and very stringent actually in many ways. How I would keep in touch with residents. As I'm doing now, I'm trying to get to know them as much as possible.
Okay.
I'm knocking on.
And by residents, I mean your ward, right?
My ward, yeah.
And for those who don't know, Rosa Park is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
We're the one of two. Our neighbor's the other one.
Yeah.
And I happen to like it. Where you live, you're their guy. So if they got a problem, anywhere from my garbage to my taxes to my neighbor, whether it's justified or not, they know who to call.
Right.
And that's what you're running. You're running to represent an actual.
I've had that already. That's the best part.
Right.
Where they, their neighbors. A lot of times they have issues with like weeds or something, or the property doesn't look well and everything. And what I try to say is, let's have a conversation first. I mean, let's not get into some sort of competitive thing. Let's see what we can do. Ask them or whatever. But if person's not complying with the current ordinances of how it's got to be maintained, I mean, a warning should be issued. It is what it is, because we should have pride in the way we look.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. You said right now you're getting to know the residents in your ward,
and
who you're going to represent.
And I'm knocking on every door.
Okay.
I mean, I'm confident enough to say I knocked on every door. Did I meet every resident of the ward? No. Some people don't want to answer the door or not home.
It was funny. I had a conversation with someone else, and they said that's the one thing that it's like people don't answer the doors anymore. It's like, hello, are you?
Yeah. It's like 1998. People don't do that anymore. You have to call and arrange something. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays, there's skits out there about it, like, whoa, who's at the door? What is this?
Yeah, I remember the comedian, right?
Yeah, that Italian dude, right?
He was like, and back then it'd be like, let's open the best wine.
Oh, get the coffee cake out. Oh, so-and-so came over. Let's have fun. John came through. Now, not so much.
So, like, are you Like is that like you had said? Oh,
I get that.
It's the door to door, but like you were like, oh man, no one's answering the door for the
Yeah. What I have to do is smile and then go, I'm running for council. I just want to introduce myself, please. And then they invading and then they come, and then I'm like, hey, I'm Rob Mathieu. Here's my palm card, a little bit about me, my phone number. If you ever need to call me, if you have any questions, and then I just give them kind of that quick spiel about me. I am a first-time homeowner. I have a vested interest in this town,
right?
And I think that my professional and educational credentials could help. Some great
if you bought a house to hold office, that's intense, right? But you're right, because you don't buy a house unless you plan to stay, right? That's the intent. Like you said, you got the mortgage, you got the taxes.
I paid full price, and guess what? Anybody who knows anything about mortgages in the beginning, you're just paying interest. I have no equity, so I can't just cut and run. I can't because I probably would owe money, and that'd be crazy.
Okay.
But it's not even just about that. It's just like I have always wanted to do something like this. Political science majors always wanted.
Right. That was part of that. You took that as your major.
We want to change the world, when we're young, and then we get older and kind of see the world and say, okay, well, I can try, but I got to be pragmatic about this. And as a Democrat, I do. I'm a little, I do have a sense of idealism. I'm never gonna lose. I don't want to ever lose that. We have to have hope. We have to strive for more and something better.
Right.
It doesn't have to be overnight. Actually, anybody who is real and intelligent about something, they'll tell you nothing happens overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It takes cultivation, it takes discipline, and it just takes follow through, and you just got to keep chipping away at it. And I hope I could help punt us as a town in the right way with my colleagues on the dais, and we could just sit together and really come up with some the best ideas we could come up with.
Okay.
And getting to know residents, and I intend on doing also. I want to do meet and greets as well.
Okay.
Absolutely. And as I get no residents, I do it all the time. Can I have your Facebook? I got yours, I got you. I didn't think I was going to get it, but I got Saul's and others. And it's not just through Facebook and social media, but email addresses and phone numbers. And I would of course try to do emails and electronic resources first because they're efficient and you could just blast it out.
Right.
But for those that are out there who don't necessarily use it, if I have to type something up and give it to them, I'd be happy to. After I get to know them, that's what they ask of me. I'm assuming the older population. But in the beginning, it seems like more and more we opt to electronic resources, so I'm definitely going to push that hard. With your announcement and everything, I probably would have piggybacked off that to some extent because that seems like what everyone's done. Lucky everybody. They basically had a free public relations guy here putting out press releases for them. So when the agendas come out, I'm gonna have to maybe highlight a couple and write a little paragraph about why this is important and why you should consider you should think about it and what do you think, or you should come out, etc. But I understand why people don't come out, and I do and I don't.
So why do you think they don't come out?
I think it's like anything. Nothing's black and white. It's a conglomeration of reasons. Some people don't come out. They start off in the negatives because they're just jaded. It's just like there's no point. Others don't come out because they have 3 jobs or at least 2, and have large families and kids now. You don't just put them out to play like that. I was in that generation still. Right. They have a calendar board of all these different things. All
these activities.
So it takes a lot of time. And then of course, if, you have an elderly parent that you got to take care of on top of it, and everybody's a 2-income household. It's really hard. So we have a representative government for a reason, and the person who's a representative government should do the right thing. I've heard that before by a few people, and I agree with that to some extent. But there are sometimes where I want to say, especially for the big stuff, gotta come out, And the big stuff, I would say, at least on the municipal side, is the developments. I mean, we have a lot of big projects in the pipeline. It's exciting. As a businessman myself, I'm happy about potential investment in our town. It seems like the town really hasn't got any major investment in a long time. But we got to come out to make sure we get what we want from these potential developments. So, I mean, those are the things I'm going to hone in on getting, probably the things that I'm going to be sending those emails and letters and everything more so on than anything else. Okay. Which is, hey, this is coming up. These are the votes. I really would like for you to come. And if they come, they come. They don't. I don't know. I don't know what to do at that point. Right. Maybe I'll have to knock on doors if I can and pull them out. I don't know.
Right.
I'll see when it comes. I'm not going to claim like I know exactly how to do this, but at the same time, I've been in situations before, just professionally where there's a learning curve. I mean, this is going to be a learning curve, but I had to step up to the plate, and every job I've had in the last, 5+ years, I've been pretty successful in, and because I was able to dig down deep and really figure it out, because I care about it.
Okay, all right. So you said you've gone to the door and you've started speaking with residents.
Sure have.
And you've had, like you said, for me the important things are developments, right? But I'm sure that was not on the tip of everyone's tongue. It's like development. Be like, so what did you start finding out?
Well, that's kind of a problem, in my opinion, because people don't even know like what's happening to some extent.
Like they say, all politics is local, right? And all problems are like it's not the. Our future is going to be impacted and be like, what, my trash didn't get picked up today.
Right.
Like, what have you found, just as a consensus,
right?
Your residents in particular, what have they expressed to you?
I think anybody in New Jersey knows the one word I'm going to say that everybody tells me every 7 doors. What is that magic word that you think I hear? Think you know that word? Or you don't want to take a guess?
Yeah.
Taxes.
Okay.
That is the word I hear every day. And you know what? I don't want to joke about that because it's an extremely important issue.
Again, that's like if you were to ask people, that would be it, right? My taxes.
And it's an extremely, extremely important issue. You hear this line from everybody, and I've said it before too. When I first moved here, it was this much, and now it's this much, and the number is pretty substantial. That increase is substantial. And one of the concerns I have, and I mean, I don't know, call me a free capitalist American, with the taxes that go up, I don't see the property values necessarily going up with it. And I feel like there's something going on in our real estate market that's keeping people away. It seems like people in the region say to themselves, well, they pay this much taxes and for what they get, and we don't feel that it's necessarily worth it for whatever reason, and then they go somewhere else, and then that's why you see higher property values in towns that are very similar to our towns. A few people then also say schools. I've gotten a couple of that saying that they're worried about their school because of the upcoming projects. They come from apartments. They said, I'm worried about my classroom sizes get bigger for my children. One resident asked me, in the 5th Ward, she said, with the new Meridia going up, if there's kids in those apartments, are they all going to Aldine because it's districted for there? And I'm like, I kind of don't know, to tell you the truth.
Right.
Because we're all...
Is the Meridia, the one to money, is that in your ward?
It's not in.
Okay.
It is.
No,
not,
but you're right. But it's going to go.
It's going to
correct.
that. Yeah, it's
Aldine,
districted for Aldine. You know what I mean? But Aldine is in my ward.
Yeah. You're right.
And this woman said to me, and we had a long conversation on her stoop, and I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like, I'm trying to, create relationships with people in the school board. As I don't know, I know one of the men on there, Joe's father, Mathieu. I mean, I fell in love with Mathieu Line Gang since he ran. He's such an asset to our community and others. I see people up there trying to serve, and right now I'm in campaign mode. I'm knocking on doors. So, and I have a job. I have a day job, which is it takes time. I don't have time at this point to, have conversations with them about these bigger issues right now. But I intend on doing that and asking them, pragmatically, what's going to happen? What can we do? Because, there can be consequences. I don't know how many kids are going to be in that building. I don't think anybody knows. I hope not too many, for our sake. But is it not possible? Of course it's possible. I mean, nothing's guaranteed. You can't guarantee there's not going to be any. It's not illegal to have kids in an apartment.
Right.
Okay? I mean, you can't do that. So, is it illegal to have 10 in a one-bedroom apartment? That's a fire hazard, yes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if every apartment has just one, it's 213. That's the number I got from the RP News, and I'm pretty sure that's the right number.
It is.
I have people telling me, I hear it's 100. I'm like, no, it's 213. I gotta read the Robertson Park News. No, I'm kidding. But it's 213. So that's 213 kids. And if that all went to Aldine, and I guess and a little bit in Robert Gordon, I'm assuming too, or not necessarily.
Well, no. So we're a district neighborhood school, so that's the way it is. And there's been talk to make it a district school where it's wherever there's. So let's say like you had said. So there's an overcrowding in this school, right? And Sherman on the other end has less than capacity.
Right.
Well, the way it would work is we would have to do the spillovers to those.
Right.
A district school is just wherever you go, that's wherever you go, and that's it.
Well, I actually called when I first moved here, and I'm being serious. I called Robert Gordon. I was like, because it's so close to me where I live. It's on, right off Locust, and I'm off of between Locust and Elm. I was like, if I had kids, and I mean, I'm looking long term, because even if I made them now, it's 5 years from now. But I was like, where would they go? Robert Gordon and Aldine. And there's a good chance it'd be Robert Gordon. So I guess depending on what side of the ward.
Well, no, so they have their own map. So like the borough has the 5. The schools have 3, and every year it changes based on, and you can ask for the map. It's not a public. I mean, it's a public record, but it's not easily available.
Right.
But yeah, so they have maps, and sometimes this block goes over to that block, and but yeah, they just like population, just like everything else, right? Because they're trying to adjust for everyone's population.
And I mean, she wasn't the only one who said it. A bunch of people said it, and then of course others said, our downtown, shopping, options we have, and redevelopment, and I know everyone's talked about redevelopment forever, about we got to do this and untap this place, etc., but I really do believe that I have the skill set to come up with some decent ideas to help us move forward.
So, like you said, taxes, schools, and the business, the downtown stuff.
Right.
So, and understanding that, as you said, things change on a case-on-case basis.
Right.
How would you plan to address property taxes? Understanding that, they're never gonna.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is, this might sound funny, but I did go to the municipal workshop, and it was very insightful. I have to say, it's great. It's amazing. But I don't have the detailed report that I know the CFO has, probably on an Excel spreadsheet, which I use on a regular basis. And I'd be like, I need to see that, and I would look at every line item and see exactly how it works, exactly where the money's going, exactly what's grant funded and what's not. To me, just as a citizen, Rob, I would just assume that anything that's grant funded, that has a grant associated with it, should be prioritized, obviously, to happen. Mm-hmm. And anything that isn't, we'd have to, if we were going to cut, that would be where you would consider it. Also, funding sources. I know funding sources, come from other areas, from the state and even county, even federal, I'm assuming. Bonding. I know bonding, is a major issue. How much, basically, we borrow money as a municipality. I mean, right now, the bonds are theoretically going to be going up real soon. Prime rate's been going up. Prime rate is the Federal Reserve rate that they set, and they feel the economy is getting better, and we can't have these artificially low rates forever. They're starting to prop it up. So, what kind of ramifications or consequences are they going to have on us in the future? I mean, the cost of borrowing money will go up, actually. So that.
But we just recently, actually, in the last meeting, we're trying to conglomerate all the bonds that we have now, so we can at least get, as opposed to having 3 bonds, we'll have to pay 1 and then get it at a lower, trying to get
the
it
rate that we're at now, which is lower.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea.
Okay.
Once I wrap my brain around that, then it's okay. So let's think a little bit bigger. How would we, what bigger ideas and proposals would I do to try to help, find savings and be more efficient? I mean, I think I would have to start venturing into the school side, which accounts for a lot of our budget, and start understanding that end. Maybe be the liaison if I can, and really wrap my mind around that budget process, and reaching out to the superintendent, the business administrator, and seeing how it works. And then after accumulating all this data and all this information, trying to work with everybody, because we're in this together. People always talk about that buzzword, shared services, right? Well, sometimes I say it's like, why don't we start internally first? Why don't we try to figure something out with the schools? I mean, that is our town. We are, within the same town, and see what we could do there.
Okay.
I mean, and then of course, if you want to get even more idealistic and more hopeful, we have to do something with other towns. We have to start creating partnerships. And you need a councilman, in my opinion, who's going to go out there and network like a maniac and try to create relationships with people around us all over the place, and see if we could, start regionalizing things, not in a bombastic, crazy manner, slowly, transition us to a point where we could try to flatten this line that's obviously going in an upward trajectory. Because I would never want to do anything that would make the services worse, if anything better.
So when I actually asked this of another candidate. So shared services, right?
Right.
For me, just I'm a homeowner, and you representative and a homeowner, means one thing: it's savings of money, right? But we have a population. We're a small town, and we have a significant population that have government jobs. Mm-hmm. They work in the DPW. They work in the police department. They work in Borough Hall. And shared services to them is the equivalent of, we just got a merger, and everyone knows what that means. So shared services to some people will mean, I'm going to lose my job.
All right, so let me touch upon that. Let's not even talk about the jobs part. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit: facilities, equipment. Let's go there first. I mean, we're talking about, I know this has been talked about at council meetings, but I don't know exactly, what this is entailed, but they've it's been talked about redoing the DPW building. I mean, that's a costly venture. Is that going to be on just the dime of the taxpayers of Roselle Park?
It already is. We're paying
1 point whatever, right?
$2.6 million. We're paying, it was approved in 2016, so we're paying for something that has never been. Right now, $2.6 million was taken out of our budget, out of the capital budget.
Right.
And it's just sitting there for this project.
Well, Rob Mathieu, the councilman, would want to said, well, let's make this facility sufficient so that neighbors around us could utilize it, and we could all share it together and maybe share the costs. Because I'm not going to say that wasn't needed. I don't know. I've never been in that building. I need to go in that building. I don't know the conditions. I'm sure it may or may not have been needed. I don't know. But
you should Oprah letters from DPW workers. There's an issue with mold and a serious concern for their health.
Okay.
So on their end, and I'm just speaking. And again, you're right. The resident really doesn't know this, but So there's been issues of having it moved, and the reason for the move. And let's be honest, because they'll say that it has nothing to do with it. But the reason that it was going to be moved was because that building was going to be senior housing. Mm-hmm. It looks like senior housing is going to be done by the time we're seniors, at this point. So that's a huge component of our co-obligations that we had to fulfill, so we don't get sued. So that was going to move to a place where Seton and Laurel meet. That the little behind the little daycare center, and there's the garbage
that back area over there.
That is going to be the DPW. $2.6 million. hasn't. It's taken out of. It's already we're paying for it, and I haven't done anything. So you're saying to do stuff like that to see if we can maybe make a multi-use complex for multiple
towns to share both the equipment and the facility, and that's not cutting anyone's job.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? In purchasing, we do purchase things. I mean, maybe purchasing together, like I said, with the schools.
Okay.
I mean, I want to start looking at things more out the box, because if we just do it like this, these taxes, we got no shot. That's pretty much the long and short of what I'm looking at.
Okay.
If we're not going to be able to lower taxes, which is a possibility, after I compile this data and really do a deep analysis, then we got to get more for our money. And like I saw something that Cranford and Roselle, Clark, and Roselle, Cranford, I forget the fourth town, they engaged in a shared bulk service where they're getting more bulk service once a month. People love the bulk. That's what I hear.
Right.
So I don't think it really cost them more. They were able to use the power of wholesale, I guess, and just have a bigger contract to propose to somebody, and they said, sure, we'll do it. So in my business, we that's what we do sometimes. You have to you could get a lower per unit cost if
Correct.
you put it all together.
Because so that's a big problem with Roselle Park is we are such a small town.
Right.
That for the past couple of years we've had one bidder for large contracts, right? So again, it's too small for maybe some companies, so they're not going to even bid. And whatever price they come in, that's what we got to pay, right? Because we put it out there, and if one person comes in and says, "I'll do it for this much," you'd be like, "Yeah," but the other time gets it cheaper, it'd be like, "Well, they didn't come into the bid this, right?" And do you think like that kind of shared services would help? Like it's a kind of a union among the towns to say, hey, we're going to be collectively, we'll all accept the same or something, right?
I mean, we have to do that, and this is hard work, and this is going to take someone to really look through contracts and making sure that every angle is covered and everything, so we don't get the short end of the stick and it works for everybody. But this is the way we have to move towards this, because we have to be a competitive town. To some extent, I'm talking about bringing towns together, but at the same time, the way the market works, here in New Jersey, people look at I look at this town. What do I get for here? What do I get from there? What do I get from there? They have, I'm sure, have a punch list of what I get from here, what I get from there. Mm-hmm. And then when they see our average tax rate, they go, well, if I pay that average tax rate over there, but get X, Y, and Z more, I think I'm going to consider there if I can afford it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Because even a couple of years ago, the governing body went through to see if they could consolidate the firehouses. Mm-hmm. Would that be something you would look into?
Something worth considering, absolutely. Okay. We do have multiple firehouses.
Right. In a 1 square mile town.
Yeah. So, but
she's always just.
But I would have to see the numbers behind it. Of course, and if it's worth it, something worth considering, especially if you could, turn them into, rateables.
Right. And they did. So they did do their due diligence, and they did do that, and it found out that, for the cost of consolidating and creating one, but so that has been done in the past, and you'd be okay with doing that, whatever the answer is, right? So if it's like, yeah, do it, or no, do it, you'd be like, okay, then that's, someone with outside eyes came in and saw this, right? Not just me or anyone else.
And then I have to talk to the people, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not just necessarily what I want, I got to see what they think about that. Maybe they don't want it. I don't know. But first things first is, of course, you have to get an objective point of view to look at the numbers and see what it would be.
Okay.
If it's bare minimum and it's nothing, then I don't know. But if it's something, it's something worth considering with all our government facilities and properties. That is smart urban planning, which I want to bring more of that into Roselle Park. Looking at all this borough-owned properties and lands and see what we could do to try to bring forth underutilized lands to actually start producing revenue, as they call it. I mean, just to speak about something that happened here. We talk about we need businesses, and I mean, there was a current deal that just got put. They vote against it. This storage facility.
Oh, the storage facility, right?
And, and on the surface, I mean, like I said, I'm not privy to this information, but as a citizen, on the surface, it seemed like it would have been a pretty good deal. Looks like it would have brought in some tax revenue and would not have produced any kids. As far as I know, it's pretty illegal to raise a family in that place. But I heard, that the Land Usage Board thought it just wouldn't be conducive to a walkable town. But I mean, the area that's in is, you got the McDonald's in the beginning of the corner, and that's a drive-through.
That's pretty much it.
There's no walkability there. After the McDonald's is a couple small storefronts which can.
Yeah, it's a car wash though.
Before the car wash, there's the little
the hitch.
the tool shop,
right,
and then something else.
It's the hitch. It's the hitch place. Yeah.
I mean, it's a small storefront, so you could say that's a little walkable. But then it's a car.
I don't think
lot.
families go to the tool store to let's go walk to the tools, because that's an actual statement that a member of the Land Use goes out.
Right.
I don't have a thing where let's go down to the storage facility. It's like, okay,
right.
But no one says let's go down to the tool shop.
Right.
Let's go down to.
I don't walk to the tool shop. So then the next one is the car wash, which is a drive-in facility. You hose it down and
in and out,
and then you're in and out. And then after that is a used car lot, which is also not I'm going to walk there and go buy a car and put it in my grocery bag. So you drive there, and then someone follows you back if you buy a new car. And then it would be the storage facility in a vacant piece of land, which is probably pretty much producing bare minimum taxes. And the minute you put something on raw land, it becomes a rateable. And I mean, I get it. It's not exactly what we want, but sometimes we just have to be a little pragmatic about things. And they actually, the rendering from what I saw, and I know pictures are pictures, but it looked like almost like an office building. So it kind of gives it that. And it was like, towards the street, it kind of gives that, I could walk down to the office kind of feel, whatever. Right. And it had a clock on it. If we don't want the clock, fine, whatever. I don't know. But I mean, but the thing is, it was produced revenue, and I was confused about that one.
Okay.
But dying for businesses, I was for it.
Okay.
So, and from my understanding, I don't think there was a pilot attached to it, which is a tax subsidy, and a tax subsidy means you pay less than what you normally would pay theoretically. So it would have been full taxes. So I don't know. I as a councilman, I want to be pro business. Working in what I do, I mean, some of the things I want to do also is I want to try to go into the municipality and bring on upon more efficiencies in the borough.
Okay.
I work in permitting, for instance. I know permitting processes. They would say, at least academic auditors would say, it's one of the best things. If you could expedite the permitting process in your town, in your city, in your state, one of the best things you could do to be pro-development. And I've spoken to small business owners. I remember I spoke to one that told me it took 9 months to get a permit. That's insane. That's it's ridiculous. You sign a lease and then you're paying 9 months worth of rent. I'm surprised the person didn't go belly up.
Right.
Which is something cool that I walked into where at work. I file a lot of building permits in New York City for these telecom projects, and they rolled out an e-filing system for the first time. They just rolled it out, and I swear to you, we're getting permits between 2 weeks to a month. That quickly, it's great. Now, am I saying I'm going to institute an e-filing program? I mean, this is one of these big things I would love to try. Could we, as a small 1 mile borough, do it? Finance it on our own? No. We would have to create partnerships with our town friends in the region to maybe come up with finance a system together, because that's an expensive venture, but that would make this area with a little nice marketing saying we have an e-filing system for building permits. That would help.
Okay.
That will spur the economy, in my opinion. Definitely.
All right.
Time is money in business.
So in the last couple of years, there's been some major and some newsworthy events that have happened, and I'll just run through some examples. The Kneeling Soldier, Christmas tree lighting, the removing of the Rosa Park First Aid as the borough's first responder, new borough clerk, new construction officer, backyard chickens, a change in how professional contracts are awarded, and the townwide reval. Can you just touch upon those and which ones you think were the most important, and how you would have addressed them had you been on council?
Well, to be truthful, I feel like I wouldn't be able to give an objective answer for most of that.
Why?
I wasn't privy to all the information surrounding that. I wasn't in the closed sessions, and I know that there was a lot of things surrounding, for instance, the soldier with the lawsuit and everything, or the possible lawsuits. I don't even know if the lawsuit came or not came, and I just don't feel like I would give an objective
But
answer.
it actually was reported on. And the copy of the lawsuit was in the newspaper that you keep referring to.
I hear you. Well,
But so how would you? So someone puts a kneeling soldier on public property. Someone with a cross, which some people consider to be religious. How would you address that as a council person?
As a council person, I would speak to my constituents about it and see, of course, what they think about it, because I understand people have very strong beliefs, pro and nay. And at that point, I would have to come to a decision at that point. But at this point, I couldn't. I'm not making a stance on that. I want to move forward from that. It's something that I don't think we really even should be worrying about or doing, as I think we have so many more pressing issues. The stuff that we spoke about.
But it was something that happened, and it was something that made polarized.
Well, as I said, as a councilman, I would say we have to move forward. We have to move forward. But we have to move forward from this.
But how? So in the end, a council unanimously and very quietly obeyed the law and did away with everything and moved over. And
to touch upon the other issues that you've talked about, the first aid squad, the re-eval. Again, wasn't privy to all the information, but I could give you for instance, a first aid squad. I could tell you my impression on that.
Okay.
So I still to this day don't know all the facts regarding the first aid squad about people, time frames of when they were picked up, or people not, showing up for their stations or whatever it be, or their responsibilities. But all I'm going to say is, from a citizen point of view, watching all the meetings, it kind of came up, and then one day it was gone. And the county, took over the property, and, if that was necessary, I think it was, I don't know. But I think the way it was, done was completely wrong. It was disgusting, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of volunteers in this town. I mean, we could say you are. People's time is very valuable, and to just not have some sort of, process behind this as to, explaining what is wrong and what are we going to do, to address this issue, and if you don't address the issue, then this is where we're going to go. I thought that was ridiculous, because from my impression, correct me if I'm wrong, that never happened.
It did. November of the previous year. There was an entire meeting where the head of the first aid came in and gave an actual proposal in public during a meeting, during a portion dedicated to them. So that's almost 10 months before they came in, and they gave their information of their plan, and they had a plan. Mm-hmm. The plan was we were going to have half paid, half volunteer, because and we were going to do a system where if you were in town, if you were a resident, you would not get charged. If you were out of town, you would get charged, and they would hire a billing service to start sending bills to people who needed our services who weren't town members. And that was done, and there was talk of having it done, and then nothing ever happened. And
but were there follow-up? So this was the plan. Were there follow-up meetings as to, all right, well, you're at this point. Here are the metrics now of what the goals that you have to hit, and are you hitting that? And then they were never hit. Were there continuous progress meetings? From my understanding, there wasn't.
Well, during the reports, because they had to hand them in to the CFO, and those were never done. Mm-hmm. And again, this was all during meetings,
right.
And to be fair, the liaison at the time, there was some question as to this person not showing up at meetings of the first aid. But those metrics you talked about were repeatedly, because I asked at meetings, and the CFO kept saying we haven't been given them, and we keep asking. So that the end all, where in July it was, we'd have maybe that last meeting could have been postponed, but at meetings, having been at them, these things were asked and touched upon.
Okay.
So how would you have dealt with that, right? Like how? So you say that you feel like how it was done was not right, but so at what point would you have? Because that's a tough decision.
An ultimatum eventually, if if the responsibilities are not being fulfilled, of course, would have to, would have to go to the county, etc. But there's monies people have donated. Not sure where that went. There's equipment that was purchased on the home payer's dime. Seems like it was just given to the county in an agreement. I understand the agreement is not in perpetuity. It's going to one day expire. All agreements have terms. So when that comes upon my desk, I will make that decision when I have all the information.
But you're just one of 6.
Of course.
So
I'm going to have to speak. We're going to, of course, have meetings and speak to my colleagues on the dais, and we're going to have to come to some sort of consensus.
And then suppose someone comes to you and says, Councilman, this thing just came up all of a sudden, and gives you the same statement that you just made.
It's up to me to continue to give them progress reports as to what's happening and what's going down. That's a big part of the job. Being ever present, being a very present councilman is a big part of the job. Walking around. I know a previous councilman used to ride his bike around and spoke to everybody on a constant basis. That's who I want to be. Absolutely, being available to the people and letting them know. But like I said, I have to try to come up with an efficient system, because I can't just ride bikes and knock on doors 10 hours a day.
I'll say the same thing I say to every single council person.
Right.
You do that when you want my vote.
Right.
You come to my house when you want my vote.
I understand.
So. And I say that to every.
But you have to do something. You definitely have to try. And I've reached out to my councilman and I've asked for at least meetings, and I've never got them. I never had to sit down. I had to sit down. I've gotten to sit down with his husband because he's into this. I'll give it to him. But I've never had to sit down with him. I've never had a phone conversation with him about issues that I just want to have conversations about. So, if someone calls me and says, hey, and I keep asking everybody to call me, to test me on this, no one's calling me. Or emailing me, because it's on my palm card. It's right there, my name, and then my name, my phone number. Yeah, you call me, and we're here.
I call you.
We're here. You came to my house, you delivered a letter, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? So,
so the backyard chickens. Which is, and again,
there's so much information around that regarding health concerns and how that would be regulated, et cetera, et cetera. I can't come up with a decision until
that's going to be your job.
Until I have that data, and when I'm in there, I will get that data.
But there's nothing stopping you from getting that data now, though.
Why? What are you saying, by Opering or whatever?
Yeah, Opering.
Right now, I'm not Opering nothing. You know why? I'm knocking on doors. I have to get in, Saul. Let's be real about that. I have to focus.
But you have to get understanding.
But I will get it on. Right? Once I'm in there, November 6th, November 7th, I will be focusing on the 3 to 4 hours a day that I go out knocking on doors, and the night stuff that I do, maintaining my target spreadsheet, because I'm doing my political targeting. You know what I mean? I don't have fancy, political tools to figure out who would be likely voters or not. I'm doing that on Excel, etc. I'm doing that on the side. I have to focus on getting in. If I don't get in, all the great ideas that I have, I can't.
Then what about 2016 and 2017 when you were here and you weren't? You weren't running for office. Why weren't you trying to figure out stuff about back then? In 2016, we did have the Healing Soldier. In 2017, we did have so these things were available back then. And again, I've
watched it. I watched the news. I watched the things, and I saw there was we have a lot of Christians, and I was raised Christian, who have very fervent beliefs in it, and I'm a big believer. That there's in Christianity, being raised Christian, but at the same time, I have friends from all different faiths, Jewish, Islam, even atheists. So, when the time comes, I will make that hard decision as to, what my stance is and how it can go. But I'll tell you, a town being sued is a big problem. I will say that. But I can't even make a decision on that because I'm not privy to the lawsuit,
It's public information. It was actually in multiple news articles. It was actually the deposition. Everything was the actual notice was there, the dismissal, the agreement. I mean, that's what it's always attached so people can get that information and not even read my article, but at least go, hey, this is the information that's out.
I understand, but I wasn't in a counsel position. I didn't delve that deep, and I just knew the headline and I knew the issue, and that's it. And I moved forward. I maintained my my private life, my career, my job, whatever, and I didn't go that deep because I wasn't a councilman and I have to go that deep. But I will as a councilman, of course, because these are very important issues and very important decisions you have to make. So that's what I'm saying. I'm really moving forward from that. If it comes up again, I mean, I guess I have to come up with something, and I wish you continue your paper. You could come and talk to me about it, and we'd have an interview about it. But at this point, no. I'm moving forward from that, and that's basically my long and short stance with a lot of those issues.
Oh well, what about the townwide reval? Because that affected you.
Sure did.
Whether
it had to be done.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Had to be done.
All right.
I mean, everybody's property has to be valued at the right, place. Right. It's a hard thing to do, but it had to be done.
Okay.
But at the same token, regardless of that, the taxes, they're just so high. They're too high. They really are.
So what would you look into to? Oh well, you did say that. We talked about it. You said the granting funding, and then that's part. Okay,
etc.
Right. Shared services. All right.
I mean, it's step A before B. A is I have to sit with the CFO. I really do. I have to be like, give me your report. Let me see what you see. When I went to the budget workshop, I was taking fervent notes of all the different, departments, basically pitching for what they need and everything. And I learned a lot. It was awesome. And I really encourage people to go.
Okay.
I mean, it's a great process. And, it should continue. Absolutely should continue. But there was more. I mean, I don't see every PO. I don't see all the invoices. I don't see everything. I don't see exactly the processes.
Public information.
I mean, you could tell me I could, Oprah things to the sun comes up, but a person who's effective in business or whatever has to, focus on what they need to do. They have to. I look at it like everything. I'm a project manager, like a project. The first piece of my project is getting in. That's what I've been putting my whole everything in since I made this decision to run. So that's what I've been doing. I've been knocking on doors. I had my fundraiser, doing things like that because it does cost money to do this, to purchase all this stuff. So, it's literally all my time, all my mental capacity is going towards getting in. But I do at least have a pretty decent understanding on how things work. So it's not like I'm like, I got nothing here. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
All right. All right. So talking about taxes. So this year happened to be one of the lowest in decades. Increase. So and people. So,
according to who? According to who?
According to the numbers and the statistics in the state of New Jersey.
Okay.
I mean, I don't understand what that question was about.
So in decades, meaning 20 years?
I have metrics going back to 1980.
Okay.
Again, by getting that public information that's available to everybody. And the reason it hasn't been forever is because there was 1 year where there was a $0 increase. Mm-hmm. But the very next year, it came back to hit us. And ever since then, because of that zero, it has become, if they had done an increase during that year, it would have, I feel, again, and this is just my observation, it would have kind of not been the spike that it was. Mm-hmm. So the reason I say decades is because the metrics of, or the information data set that has the actual increase per dollar is from 2000. I have the tax increases for total for everybody from 1980. So that's according to that, $48. That was the lowest since 2000, with the exception of 1 year. The year before was one of the highest at $121.
Right.
So what do you plan to? And we talked about improving services, but so how do you view that 1 year, the lowest increase? And it needs to understand people, and I feel this is kind of a not nefarious, but a kind of a promo kind of thing. It's like, your taxes only increased $48. It's like, well, that's cool. And then you get your bill. It's like, yeah, your taxes which is, let's say that the town's part was $3,400. It usually became $3,448. You still have to pay the $3,440. It's not like, oh, I'm just paying $48. Because psychologically, you're like, oh, I just got to pay $48. You just pay $48 more than what you did last year.
Well, I can't make a comment if this was like the best or not. To some extent.
No, just say the lowest. This is the lowest.
Only because, state aid changes on a regular basis, bond ratings, cost of borrowing, cost of services, contract.
Well, debt services are already set into the books.
I'm saying, hold on, contracts with employees, etc.
Well, those are already set for 3 years. As a matter of fact, this year it's going to be up.
On the surface, with this question, the way it's stated, if it was the highest at 121 and then the previous year and then the lowest at 48, it seems like it's just congruent with its regular increase to some extent because they got more. Municipality got more previous year, and then this year it just went down. They were lucky enough to decrease it. I mean, as a councilman, what I want? I want it to not go up for the first time in decades. Other than that, you told me that 1 year. That's what I want. That's what I want.
But that's what I'm kind of asking. I'm asking you, do you know why these things went up? Because as a councilman, you would have to know why you're going to tell someone we're increasing your taxes by $20. We're increasing your taxes by $200, right? And seeing, like you said, learning from history, right? So if we learn from the most two recent, and I just personally think those are great because that's a huge difference, right? Like, how did we get to 121? And if you're running for an office, and I ask this of everybody, you're running for office, and to tell us.
Okay, I was at the budget workshop. I know what the claims were, the insurance. There was a lot of savings in how insurance is dispensed. I think that was a big one.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't want to make a comment saying, well, this is great or not great, because, again, I need to sit down with the CFO. I really need to know all the intricacies of how it really, went down or didn't go down, and how state funding, or even if there's other sources of funding, federal, etc. Did that change or not change?
But we have it's called a user-friendly budget. It's a UFB, and they're available every year through that Oprah that show the breakdown and actually write articles about them every year to tell people this is where, and there's a comparison of. This is how much data we got last year. This is how much data we got this year, and it didn't change much. But there aspects of things
I hear you with that. But I'm going to come to the conclusion with my eyes by seeing all the details, and I want to see all the line items there. Like, for instance, if one department says we need all these different pieces of equipment, I need to see why, how much they cost, and why, and every single little piece, and is it necessary? Is it not necessary? Is it something that we could maybe get a grant for or not? So, we have to keep it low, of course, and next year has to be lower. My goal is it not to go up at all. Period. I'm going to do everything I can with every facet of me to try to make sure it doesn't go up. We as a borough have to say this is just on the municipal portion.
Right.
Forget the school and the county. Have to say, hey.
But during the budgets, we do have all the departments give reports that give you the line by line item.
But I need the invoices in front of me. I was taking.
But there's no invoice because it's a budget request.
I'm taking notes like a maniac because there was a lot of information.
No, but those were parts of those were attachments. Mm-hmm. Those were given at the meetings to the public. Like the police department.
Right, they're saying those packets on the desk that nobody informed me that I can go look at.
No.
Or take a copy of. I hear you. So eventually I saw that was there. But
right.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at those. So I was taking furious notes.
Right, but then when the capital budget part came in, which is the second part, which is those in the requests. So those are those are actual line by line items where you have the police department saying,
a lot of this conversation we're engaging is a lot of hypotheticals. You asked me to judge, on past budgets and whatever. I wasn't in at that time. There was a lot of closed door meetings, and I was not. I'm not in. There's a lot of information I'm not privy to.
No, but I'm talking about public.
So
the budget came in, and they say it's a 5-year outlook, and they tell every department, give us your budget request, and it's something from some people just have a page to like a booklet,
right.
And in that it says, this is what we need, this is how much we've been told it's cost. And we add all these up.
And in order to come with a very objective view, I'd have to have it in a spreadsheet, calculate numbers, and really, look at it in a much more in-depth view. I can't just,
How much more in-depth view could you look at than what's been given to you in a packet that says this?
I need the spreadsheet that goes over every line item of every cost in the municipality.
We're talking about the requests because we were talking about budgets, and you're the one who brought up the department heads and the departments.
Right.
And what I'm saying is the way it works is the department heads come in and they say, this is what we're going to request, and then council has to go through it. And it's the same thing that the public's given,
right?
And they go through it, and they
and I can't come to that conclusion without that in front of me. I don't have that in front of me. I don't have a photographic memory of their packets and all the notes that I took. I can't come to that conclusion until I have that in front of me. And where I utilize, like I said, Excel and other tools of that nature to really surmise if this was necessary, good or not. You know what I mean? So that's really all I'm going to say when it comes to that. And I promise, as a councilman, to do everything I can to really analyze this budget and do everything we can to get this to not go up this next year. That's it.
I don't know how you can say that without having some experience on why it went up in the previous years. But I mean, that's the position you've stated. Okay. So you've talked about your work experience and how things have you can use that, and as part of council, there's departments and commissions and boards that you're liaisons to, and committees that that can be appointed to.
Yeah.
So if you had your choice, what committees or boards or would you like to be appointed to?
Yeah, as mentioned before, I would love to try to work with the schools, so I would like to be a liaison to Board of Ed if possible. Okay. Municipal Land Usage Board, definitely. Finance Committee.
And you've been at those meetings,
yes.
at the Land Use Board.
Yes. I mean, the liaison who was there, as far as I know, I wasn't at that last one. I'm not sure, because this wasn't on, as I said, my RP TV source. So I don't think all the Land Usage Board meetings are on the RP TV news, unfortunately, and the agendas. I love the work they've done where the agendas are in the transparency tab on the website, and you can get a notification. I've asked the chairman if he could start implementing those as well, and he said we'll look into it, and I got nothing.
Right.
I have to follow up on that.
Okay.
But I mean, I think the people should know the agendas for those. And I will push for that. If I'm elected, that's happening. Actually, I'm gonna postulate that that should be a thing. The Finance Committee and the Construction Committee, because I have business experience. I think I could help with that. I could definitely help with the the construction, the permitting process, etc. As I talked about before, that would be something that I would like to try to help the borough with. And of course, the Finance Committee, because we just had a whole in-depth conversation about that. I have to see the budget. I have to see all the little ins and outs, all the stuff, the nuances that people would experience, can tell you about as to why. Why is a surplus? Why is there going to be this much room? Can we take a little bit more off to try to offset, what taxpayers have to pay into? Can you take, the joint sewer fund? It's a separate fund. But can some of that funding be used to offset things? These are the little things. There's so many different things. So
you mean just the sewer fund, not the joint sewer fund?
Yeah, the sewer fund.
Okay,
sorry.
okay, you're right. No, okay.
Which from my bare minimum research, I hear it has a pretty large surplus in there, okay. And I don't know why. Is it saved? Are we saving for something? Are we preparing for an emergency? Because that's another thing about budgets. Emergencies come up.
Well, so surpluses, that's where they're there.
Right? I'm saying, exactly. I hear you. Emergencies come up.
Right.
So, But it's saying I have to have a really, really, really in-depth conversation with the professionals. Mr. Blum seems like a very, very competent fellow. He seems like he really knows his stuff.
Okay.
I have to say that. So, those are probably the committees, and those are the main ones that I would want to be a part of.
So if elected, even though you're running as a Democrat, you'll be representing all the people of your ward. And you spoke about that. You said that there's this part and then there's the other part. How can you let residents know that if you personally disagree with other members, even on your party or on council on an issue, that you'd be able to vote based on your decisions?
I mean, I did touch upon my view a little bit about, the apartments, about how that's a concern. I mean, it is a concern of mine. I'm excited about that investment happening, Meridia One, but at the same time, I have concerns about it. I'm a person, regardless of party. I speak from my heart. I speak from, it's for what I think is right for the borough. I mean, I've vested, like I said, vested interest in this place. I want to raise a family here. If my kids go to Aldine, I'm worried about that. I don't want classroom sizes that are Lord knows how large, or trailers. I mean, that's terrible. Like that's worrisome to me. I don't want that. So, regardless of party, I mean, I represent the people of my ward, and I represent the people of Roselle Park, and it's about what I feel as a leader needs to be done, and I'm going to keep in contact with everybody. I knock on everyone's door. There's people who when they knock on doors, they'll say, oh well, you should really knock on maybe just your party and independents. I've knocked on everybody's door.
Okay.
I mean, you could go ask any random person from the other party a palm card's there if they didn't get them. And I've spoken to many Republicans. I was raised in a conservative household. I see value in conservatism, in liberalism, but I'm a left of center guy at the end of the day. I consider myself a moderate to centrist, and I lean a little more left. That's all. So that's the big reason why I picked my party, and I believe in the people that I'm running with. I think Joseph and we both share this young enthusiasm, young professionals who have accrued decent careers, and and then Joseph Petrosky seems like a very good volunteer who's been out there, and everyone always has told me this is I before running I asked about him. I'm like, who is this fellow? Because I never knew him, and they're like, if you call Joe, he's right there. He's very responsive as a councilman, and that's something that's in my control. That's something I have to. Constituent services is something that I have to, to figure out and be great at that. First, these bigger problems about shared services and these grandiose ideas, there's a lot of variables that I'm not going to have control over, but I will have control over that, and I want to be a councilman just like him. So, and he, from what I know, he speaks to people from everywhere because, he votes from his heart, and it's about, his community, his neighbors. He's got to do right for his neighbors, and that's what it's about.
So, like with development, right? And actually, so we have Meridia, and how would you, based on what you know, how would you have voted on that? That's the one by the demonic,
yeah.
Which is like, is
so,
that
I forget. No, that's a fourth ward. That's fourth ward.
Okay,
that's fourth ward.
Right.
Because my ward, for the most part, is the northwest section of the borough.
Okay.
That's the southwest section, which is the fourth ward. That's a simple way of understanding the wards. Third goes down the middle.
Right.
First is the northeast, and then the second is the southeast. They're not exact squares, but it's a story. It gets a little squiggly in certain areas. But regardless of that, my view on that is, as the first major investment in Roselle Park, and being a businessman and being a pragmatic fellow, I'm excited that it's happening. But at the same time, there are certain little aspects of it that if I was councilman that I would want to have, try to negotiate.
Like what?
I think the density is a concern.
Okay.
I think the layout is a concern, apartment layouts, the way they're laid out, and the fact that it's not mixed use, or maybe it's mixed use. This restaurant is like the...
Like the first floor is retail.
Is it or is it not? I don't know. I mean, that's become a major issue of mine. To speak about apartments and everything else, again, back to my pragmatic, put it on. There's obviously a demand in this. I mean, every town around us is building these apartments. There's a reason for it. And these large development companies, they do their due diligence. They do hardcore analysis to see why they would invest millions of dollars in this. They want this. People want this. There's a demand for it. I'm not anti-apartments.
Okay.
But as a possible representative for Roselle Park, I want to make sure the ones that come in are the best ones that can be put in for the people of Roselle Park.
Like now.
Ideally, you want, this is the way I look at it, it's kind of simple. You want as much commercial presence, retail, stores, whatever you want to call it, possible on that lot, and the least amount of residential possible on top, behind, on side, whatever. That's the simple way of looking at it. As a councilman who's negotiating on behalf of the people of Roselle Park, you want to do your best to keep the density down and the retail up. Now, that's idealistic. Negotiator Rob, who wants to do the best I can for the people. The first one, like it's very dense. I mean, Meridian 1 is very dense. From what I'm hearing, this is another dense one too. A fear of mine with the first Meridian was, I don't like the apartments with dense. I don't like that. That can invite a lot of things that we don't need for our schools.
Right. So that's a perfect example. So we were talking. So
I mean, even if we could have just negotiated that piece out, I would have been happier.
So let's say that again, there was your belief is as much commercial as least residential, and let's say that there's a vote with let's say that this Sullivan for no reason gets put off till next year. You're elected on council, and you have councilmen in your party who they love it the way it is, right? And you said that. How would you assure residents that you would vote, even if it meant voting with Republicans?
Like I said, I'm my own person. You know what I mean? And what I'm saying right now is what I want.
Okay.
I look at things like the Garwood Lofts. I don't know if people understand that one. I think that's a great project. There's so many beautiful storefronts in the front. It does that walkable town feel. I actually done research on how much tax revenue, real quick, that produces.
Right. That has 3 floors. Is this 3 stories? Is that one?
No, that's one story, maybe 3, but it's like. I think it's like one loft type unit where it's like a second floor, but then behind it but behind it has parking, then behind that there's actually residential. Okay. So it's not like there's like no residential. Gotcha. So, but point being is, it brought stores. Right. You know what I mean? And I mean that's what will make, in my opinion, not my opinion, I think we know this. That's what will make our borough attractive to, get, the best, type of demographics we can get. I mean, we talk about getting millennials all the time, young professionals. In my opinion, not my opinion, I know we're not going to have a shot at getting these guys and ladies. The ones who theoretically are not going to produce a lot of school kids unless we have shopping options. Right. And also or amenities at the properties. If you don't have the shopping options, a lot of young professionals, they like amenities. They like, high-end amenities and inside if it's going to be an all-residential complex. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. It doesn't have to necessarily be mixed use with a lot of retail, but, I think that one was, hey, nothing has been done in this place for, what is it?
Decades.
35,
50
years. So it was the first one. The company that made that investment, one can argue they took a shot, they took a chance on us. It was a catalyst, and it is a catalyst.
And that's great, because I think that's important to note that, what.
But the same developer now, who's just been named, is going with Sullivan. So I'm excited.
Okay.
But somewhat concerned.
Okay.
But also idealistic. Hoping that we're going to get a good one here. This is the gateway to our town. This is the center of our town, and I hope everyone hears from me that this is what I want. I mean, I want some sort of deal that's going to be conducive to attracting the millennials, as we say, or the young professionals. Because
so you have that in your mind, which is that's a clear vision, right? That's you're saying, because you just said it. You said as much commercial as least. So that's good, because that's. That's an actual,
mixed use. I think
Yeah.
is a big component. I mean, I go to like a Union, which I've been making some friends with Union. I met this fella at the planning board over there, and I said to them, you guys done a spectacular job. I think Stuyvesant Avenue with all the mixed use that's already there, cool little shops there. They're actually redeveloping on one side across the street from the Walgreens on the corner.
Okay.
They're completely demolishing that store and doing mixed use. They're going to put stores on the bottom, brand new stores, and then apartments above, and the parking. There's a municipal parking lot behind them, which will,
Right.
act as that's where government can help. I'm assuming they probably lowered their parking requirements a lot and able to do that so that the developer could be creative and use as much land towards actually building the building than putting it towards parking, because developers they look at it that way. How much they're not going to make money on the parts that they put cars at.
Right.
So, but there was a municipal lot behind there, and now, who knows? They may construct it into a garage. I don't know all the dealings with that.
Okay.
Again, I will. When I get in, I'm going to really do my due diligence, hardcore research, see if we could utilize that best practice here. And the sidewalks are all redone. I mean, an idea that I have that I think I could do immediately, which we need to do, because I've spoken to a lot of people at Colfax Manor, and they were, saying parking is such an issue.
Right.
Is they all park on, Roselle Ave. I think one thing we can do to just make their life easier is we could paint, parking lines just so that all the spots are...
So everyone knows, right.
Yeah, so they're efficiently there so they could get the most parking spots they can. Like, these are simple things, and paint doesn't cost that much money. And I bet you there's actually grants to find paint lines from what I hear. I think Complete Streets, which I know is happening with the current people up
Right.
there, enables you to do that. So, that's something, that's a promise right now. I'm going to push to have, to do that everywhere that, makes sense, so that parking can be used as efficiently as possible. Because I know parking's a big issue in our town when it comes to certain areas where there's apartments, because it's dense over there. Because there are a lot of apartment complexes in my ward. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And in your experience and in talking with people, what do you find most positive about the Fifth Ward, and what needs to be improved?
I love the small town feel.
Okay.
I mean, I've gotten to know my neighbors, great people. I remember when I first bought my home, I redid the sod, between the sidewalk and the curb, just to make it look a little prettier. And one of my neighbors is one door down. He's like, doing a great job. He was happy about it because he takes a lot of pride in his home, and I love that. I see so many people take pride in their home and put money into their homes, and I want them to get that back, either through, in-home value, which, like I said, is a concern of mine. I'm not saying, we have to I'm turning this into flip mania or something.
Right.
Like it's a subprime mortgage days, but it should be an upward trend. I just, I love that small town feel. I think the thing that I need to focus on is the communications to the people.
Okay.
Being present and having a constant dialogue with the residents regarding all these issues that we're basically talking about, what we need to do, what we need to do possibly together, and what I'm doing, and what they think.
Okay.
Having that open dialogue as much as humanly possible. That would be the improvement I think that needs to be done in the Fifth Ward.
Okay. And so, had you been on council, let's say you were elected, you came in 3 years earlier, and you got elected to council in 2016, or 15, you started serving in 16.
Yeah.
The changes that have happened within these 3 years, right? It's pretty noticeable.
Right.
From development to laws to, we have people who are saying we've got the nail salon ordinances, we got grease trap ordinances.
Yeah.
Some people are saying that's really great. Some people are saying that's anti-business. What stands out for you as things that you would have either said, hey, let's take a little pause here and maybe not do this, or do, like you said, do more research? And what would you have championed to say, this is the best thing ever?
I'm going to hone in on the land usage again,
Okay.
on the apartments, because between Hawthorne Street,
Right.
what's happening there, Mimi's Pizza,
Yeah.
Meridia 1, Sullivan Lot, the Ryan property, Hunter property. I mean, theoretically, if that's all built, also Romarowski, where
Romarowski.
Fenmore Properties
Yeah.
just gave a little taste of 110 or 15 units. I mean, it's a lot of residential. That's a lot.
That's a lot, right? It's that's an impact. Or forget schools. Think about your sanitation, your pickup,
How about
your sewers, right?
How about lack of impervious
coverage, right?
Coverage, where's that flooding going to go? How is that going to affect my neighbors? So, if I have a neighbor all of a sudden who lives in a single family house, it's close to that, where the impervious surface, which mean basically grass, where the water can go into the ground if nobody, just to simplify that, we have to make sure that, I've seen other towns. That's actually a big deal.
Oh, you wouldn't think. Oh, it's
from an engineering standpoint.
Oh.
And I mean, the development part.
If the water doesn't go down.
Yeah,
it's going
somewhere.
It's
going somewhere.
Yeah.
So I as a councilman am I'm gonna look at the engineering. That's the real details that.
Okay.
I that concerns me, but at the same time, also just population increases. Are we going to need more police coverage as a result? Fire coverage? Road surfacing, is that going to increase? And then the schools. I mean, that is the big one, which is who knows. I'm very concerned about it. I mean, one of your articles, it was an assumption it could increase up to 13% of our population.
Well, no, if you just take 2 people, right? If you take 1.5 person,
based
for
on
everything, that's we're going to hit 14,000. 15,000 soon, right?
And we're very dense already.
So that's good.
Is that stat we're the most densely populated in the county?
In the county, yeah.
In the county.
Out of 21 different.
I mean,
we're like 60th in the state. Think about that. Right. Okay.
It's a major concern of mine.
Well, I'm glad that. So you're seeing that big picture kind of thing. It's like, hey, everybody, I get the little, like the little nail salons and things, but folks, let's keep an eye on what's coming.
I mean, that one ordinance that was proposed, and I still, I didn't follow up on it. About not having a nail. I'm not angry about the nail. Like, people sometimes seem like they're angry about all these nail salons. It's like, you know what? These are small business owners. I mean, these are great people. I mean, they're taking the shot. Okay.
Right.
I mean, they're putting their life on the line. They're mortgaging their house, God knows what, to get that money, or they're borrowing from family members, or have multiple partners that pulling their little life savings they have. These are great.
I mean, it's a huge. You're putting your money where your mouth is. Literally,
they're great people. I mean, they really are. And the thing is, you know what? The thing about Roselle Park, all of the storefronts we have are conducive to those type of businesses.
Right.
That's part of the reason why we have so many. So what are you going to blame them for?
That's a good point.
And that's the thing with these new developments coming in the pipeline. I want to see more diverse types of storefronts, larger square footages, to possibly get some big box retail here that can help bring populations to shop there and patronize the pizzerias and the barbershops. Maybe I'll go to Target. I'm not saying that's one I'm going to get here, but I'll go to Target and I'll go get a haircut.
Like you said, think outside the box.
Get a nice haircut. Then I'm going to get a good slice, because I heard Roselle Park's got some of the best pizza around, and they really do. And then so like, that's the thing with a lot of these. I'm not saying I'm against apartments, but we really need developers,
You're taking it seriously.
I mean,
I really,
we need some larger.
It's a priority, I guess.
Yes, larger storefronts. So we could punt the direction forward in my opinion, the better way. But you can't just say no apartments. That's that's unpragmatic. Let's be real about that. One thing that I do, which is like funny, you might think it's funny, I'm doing this little bit every once in a while. Professionals like myself and others, I'm sure I try to look for you on here, but LinkedIn is a very powerful tool, and there's other tools that are very powerful where you can get the contact information of people in prominent positions. When I worked in investor relations and other, you could pay to find contact information of so-and-so with so-and-so title. So what I've been doing is I've been reaching out to the retail expansion person for Target or Walmart or other companies, actually that new, I'm not saying we can get that because they require large square footages and we have no room for it, but there's actually a job in Linden for that new Lindy. They actually there's a position out there online for the expansion specialist. It looks like they're looking to expand in New Jersey a lot. So I'm saying, finding those key people, and once I have that titles don't mean nothing, but to some extent, if I am councilman, I'm going to say, hey, my name is Mathieu. I'm councilman of Roselle Park. Could we have a discussion about, what are the type of environment? What is it that you need when you say to yourself, well, I'm going to target this town or this area to put this kind of store here. And, I add them on LinkedIn, a couple have accepted, etc. But I'm not going to have any conversations with them until I'm in.
Okay.
Because that would just be an exercise in futility at this point, because they're like, you're wasting your time right now.
Right.
So this is the way I'm thinking. I'm really into this. I want to really give it a shot. I want to do the best I can to just, make our we have a nice town, very nice town, but it could be better. It could be better. It could be, it's cool, but it could be cooler. And these are the things in my mind I think people would love. I mean, you hear it all the time. But there actually has to be a plan and follow through, and it's going to be a lot of hard work, and I'm ready for the task.
Okay. Well, thank you for the conversation. I appreciate it. And so is there anything any final thoughts or things you'd like to say to those who are listening in and to our conversation?
Sure. Well, again, my name is Rob Mathieu. For those of you who don't know my name, I'm asking for you to just give me a shot. After hearing everything I said, I'm passionate about this. I care about this town. I'm at a point in my career where I finally feel that I'm ready for a position like this to do it really well. I'm going to do everything within my power to try to change all these issues that we have. And if some of the issues, which some seem to be structural in nature, where it's almost impossible to change them, as a result, I'm going to at least be very frank with my constituents and explain exactly why that is,
Okay.
as best as I can. Because we live in not just our town, but in our country. It's just this feeling of jadedness and anger and everything. I mean, life is short. I mean, let's get together. We're all in this together. I'm a working guy just like everybody else, like all of us are.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are billionaires, I don't think. I could be wrong, though. Maybe there's one somewhere. Let's have our conversations. Let's get to know each other. And reach out. Feel free to reach out to me.
And how can they reach out to you? Do you have contact information or
sure?
Facebook
Facebook, of course. Robert Mathieu, Mathieu.
Okay.
My email, which is Rob A, last name Mathieu, Mathieu @gmail.
Okay.
And of course my cell, 609-616-2732. I mean, call me.
All right.
But I prefer email, of course, because I sit in front of a computer all day.
Right.
And I jump back and forth between borough work and emailing. I'm on a few committees as we speak, so
Okay.
I've been, I email back and forth with them.
Okay.
And of course, I've been emailing back and forth with my colleagues and my team who are working together, campaigning. So, give us a shot. I really think that us and some of the people up there on the dais, we could work together. There are people with some great experience up there, and I think bring some new perspectives, a new view on things, and we could come together and I think come up with some really good ideas.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right.